Plot twist in Purgatory. Written by LAle. Read by Kayleigh. Dean's hope was running thin, but he refused to let go. He refused to leave without Cass, even though there were just 2 minutes and 56 seconds left before the rift closed up, sealing them in purgatory. Cass was nowhere to be found, and a cruel little voice was whispering in his head that probably he was lost forever. Maybe the Leviathans had already killed him. Then a familiar rusty voice from behind called his name. It was the most beautiful sound in the world. Dean enveloped Cass in a rib-crushing hug, inhaling deeply in the angel's otherworldly smell. Then, realizing that Cass might be injured, he distanced himself a little to check him out. "You okay?" "I'm fine." "What happened?" "They were after me, not you. I figured it would be safest to give myself up." Dean wanted to argue with the angel's tendency to self-sacrifice, but he left it for another time. "They take you to Eve?" he asked instead. "Yeah, we were en route. I waited until I saw this." Cass pulled a blossom out of his coat. It got a little smushed. Dean chuckled. You did it, Cass." "Well, they're still after me," Cass replied. "We should hurry." Cass was going to move, but Dean stopped him, holding on to him. He had already lost too many chances, and this time it had been too close call to delay any further. "Okay, Cass. I need to say something." "You don't have to say it. I heard your prayer." "No!" Dean was frantic at this point. The clock was running and they were mere seconds away from being locked in purgatory for good. But he had to speak. He had to tell his angel what he'd got buried in the deepest place within his heart for years. "No. Please let me say it." Cass looked at Dean. He was sporting a look that was hope and fear mingled together. He searched Dean's eyes for what felt like an eternity, then let go of the tension that was keeping his shoulders straight and stiff. He looked almost defeated, and Dean felt like an asshole. Probably Cass was afraid he was going to blame him some more, as he always did, like the asshole he'd been for the last months. "Cass," Dean started, determined to end the angel's agony and put a content smile on those tempting lips. I know how you see yourself, Cass. You see yourself the same way your brothers see you. You're a soldier. You were the hammer of God. And you think duty and the need to redeem yourself, that is what drives you. That's who you are. A broken angel with a crack in his chassis. But nonetheless, a useful tool in someone else's hands. It's not, and everyone who knows you sees it. Everything you have ever done, the good and the bad, you have done for love. You raised me from perdition. You pulled Sam out of hell for love. You fought for me, for Sam, for Jack, for the whole world, for love. That is who you are. You are the most caring angel that ever walked on earth. You are the most selfless, loving being I will ever know. You know, ever since we met, and ever since you pulled me out of hell, knowing you has changed me. I love you." Dean's eyes were shining so bright that no tincture could compare to them, and they were searching Cass's to spot the same feeling of happiness and fulfillment, but only found regret and despair. "Cass?" Dean asked, a little hesitant now. "I'm sorry, Dean. You didn't deserve this." A loud cracking sound startled Dean, who swiftly turned towards the noise, just in time to see a black gooey substance creeping towards them from a hole in the undergrowth. What's that?" Dean cried, turning to Cass for an explanation. "Dean, go. There's no time," Cass urged him, on the verge of tears now. "No way, man. I'm not leaving here without you." "It's the empty, Dean. It promised it'd come and take me as soon as I experienced a moment of true happiness. That's the deal. I bargained my life for Jack's, and now it's time to collect." "No way," Dean thought to himself, more determined than he'd ever been in his life. He gripped Cass tight and launched them both in a breathtaking race. The rift was cracking faintly a few hundred feet away. It was already starting to close. Dean was driven by desperation and adrenaline, and he sprinted the last few feet, dragging Cass, too stunned to resist, with him. The black tendrils were right behind him, licking at their heels. Dean tightened his grip around Cass's shoulders and jumped into the rift, stumbling into the war room back in the bunker. There was an ear-piercing screeching noise and a nauseating smell like burned meat, then everything fell quiet. Slowly, Dean opened his eyes and lifted his head. He was still holding on to Cass's coat for dear life. "Cass, you okay?" Cass was blinking blurrily, stunned, eyes taking in his surroundings and landing on Dean's face. "Dean, what did you do?" "I dunno, man. Probably just saved your ass from perdition. But the empty. I think it's sealed in purgatory." Cass was still looking at him, awe and bewilderment mingled together. "So, what about your true happiness?" Dean asked to break the silence. Cass stuttered, then lowered his head and began to chuckle. The chuckle turned into laughter, and Dean was stunned and delighted at the sight of his angel laughing with mirth for once. Finally, Cass seemed to sober a little. His eyes were still shining with tears of joy. "I love you, Dean Winchester." Dean was just too stricken to answer right away, but he had no hesitation when Cass's lips met his, soft and warm and so right. He kissed back in earnest, believing for once that good things do happen.